Welcome again. My name is Sue Atkins. I'm the Associate Director of Employer Relations in the Career Center at Tufts. And we've been hosting several summer programming panels. And tonight's Who's Hiring Now? West Coast. We did an East Coast edition a few weeks back, and we have a really great panel of speakers tonight. So I'm very excited, and thank you for all time zones being represented, I feel, tonight. So thanks again for all of you coming and sharing your wisdom with our students. As I said, we are recording the session, so just make sure that you're on mute, and we'll be accepting questions later on, so you can put those in the chat feature. And I'll make sure to kind of glean that. Some of you submitted questions ahead of time as well, and we have those to start us off later on. So just to get us started, I'd love to introduce each of the panel members. So we have Alex Bader. She's a senior recruiter from Hulu, who's joining us from the Los Angeles area. Whitney Galindo, who's University Programs Manager from Surveymonkey. So she's in the Bay Area, joining us tonight. Nick DiNardo, who's our New England located Regional VP for the Northeast for Salesforce. And Catherine Maitland, who is based in Boise, Idaho, but is our executive recruiter for Northern California, Utah, and Nevada for AAA. So thank you all for coming, and it's great that you'll be sharing your perspectives this evening. I'd love to just have each of you just start off, introducing your role, what your role is within your organization, and giving us a little bit of an introduction to who your company is, just so each of the students can hear a little bit more about your organization. So maybe Alex, we'll start with you, since you're in the first visual for me.
Sure, no problem. So I'm Alex. I recruit for Hulu. Most particularly, I do ad sales, business development and operations, and a little bit of marketing, so mostly non-technical roles. Hopefully everyone's heard of Hulu, but if you haven't, we are a streaming company rivaling Netflix, Amazon, etc. So streaming is really heating up right now, and luckily Hulu's had a lot of really good hits, so we're doing good.
I think you're on mute there, Susan.
Yes. So Nick, would you like to go? Yes.
Sure. Happy to. Nick DiNardo, Regional Vice President for our higher education group for Salesforce.org. So Salesforce.org is the nonprofit kind of social enterprise group vertical inside of Salesforce. And Salesforce is a CRM company with many other different clouds that are included as well. So we have Marketing Cloud, and we have Communities Cloud, and we have Tableau. You may have heard of. It's an analytics tool as well. So we've kind of diversified our offerings. $17 billion company, 50,000 employees. Excited to talk to you all today. My background is mostly in sales and marketing and leadership. But prior to this call, I talked to our West Coast recruiters too, to just make sure that I was covering our West Coast take. So excited to be here, and happy to answer any questions.
Right. Thank you so much. Catherine, would you like to go next?
Hi, I'm Catherine Maitland. I'm the executive recruiter for AAA of Northern California, Utah, Arizona. We've added a few other states, Nevada, Wyoming, Montana, Alaska. And so we've doubled in size in the last 5 years. We have about 4,500 employees. We have over 6 million members. That's just our AAA club. We also have our own innovation lab called A3 Ventures. That is in Berkeley, and that is our company, our AAA clubs. And we've launched several new products out of there. We just purchased a home security company. We rebranded as A3 Smart Home. That has exploded. I think part of it is COVID, people wanting a little more security at home. And we also just put 500 rideshare cars in Seattle, Washington, in conjunction with the AAA club out there. So we have a lot going on. AAA, I had no idea until they called me what all AAA could possibly have going on. It was, I was very surprised. So.
Great. Perfect. Thank you so much. And Whitney, would you like to go?
Hi, I'm Whitney Galindo, and I'm the University Programs Manager at Surveymonkey. So my team is responsible for recruiting all of our interns and then putting on a great program for them when they're here in the summer. If you haven't heard of Surveymonkey, we are the world's largest survey platform provider, and we enable our customers and organizations to turn feedback into action. And I've been at Surveymonkey for a little over 3 years. Excited to be here and to answer all your questions today.
Awesome. Great. So just to kind of start off our questions, it'd be great to hear, and I know, Catherine, you kind of touched on this a little bit in the answer you just gave, is really how your organization and your industry area has been affected, obviously, in this pandemic. And, you know, it'd be great to hear if there's new business lines or new areas that you're expanding in as a result. So it'd be great to hear a little bit more from each of you around kind of changes and adaptations you've had to make in your work since we're all working from home in most cases. So if someone wants to start with that would be great.
I'm happy to go. Yeah,
Great.
so what we've seen in the technology space, and specifically in, I work in higher education. So, I mean, we have a ton of different verticals across Salesforce, right? So we have a financial services vertical, a higher ed, you know, an education vertical, a nonprofit vertical, hospitality. So there's some specific verticals who have been hit, you know, pretty hard. I mean, hospitality, you can guess. Education has been interesting, kind of up and down. But I think we've seen a ton of uncertainty. But at the same time, I think the biggest thing that I've seen with Salesforce is just dealing with adversity and how the leadership has really stepped up for employees, which is a testament not just to, you know, kind of backing what they talk about. In good times, it's easy to lead. In tough times, it's not as easy. So, you know, the first thing that they did was they did Mark Benioff was the CEO, did a 90-day no layoff pledge, which he asked CEOs across multiple industries to join him on. So that was a great kind of, you know, a weight lifted off of many employees' shoulders with a lot of this uncertainty happening. Not just that, but he guaranteed compensation, like, you know, commissions for salespeople across verticals. And he just did a lot of things to really step up and focus on the people instead of the bottom line, which you can see a lot of industries that, you know, had to deal with the uncertainty and just said, hey, we're going to lay off a bunch of people, right? That hasn't happened here. And I think that's a testament to the type of leadership that we have and the focus on mission and purpose. So, you know, it was a big impact for us that have been here, and obviously something that we focus on when we hire people as well.
No, that's great.
I think I can definitely relate to Nick's sentiments about, you know, the company stepping up, and, you know, Hulu itself as well has been fortunate enough to not have any layoffs at the moment due to COVID. So I think for us, you know, we're in a really fortunate position where everyone's at home streaming and binging. And so we've been doing really well. Obviously, there are pieces of the business that are on pause. You know, production is on hold. There are certain areas, you know, even for me, I usually travel across the country to visit my teams, and I can't do that right now. So we've also, you know, noticed that we have a little bit of a slowdown in terms of recruiting. Even if you look at our website, we have less roles than we typically do, but I would say we are pretty fortunate that we still do have a lot of roles available right now. So that's a quick plug on hulu.com/jobs, or excuse me, careers@hulu.com. I will get that information to you, but we are doing quite well. And so that's been really great. And our company as well has had to pivot all of our onboarding virtually, our intern programs. So they've been doing a really excellent job just making sure that our culture shines through, even though we can't be in person.
And what would you say are some of the key, when you're talking about the onboarding, just to follow up, what do you feel like were some of the key things that you tried to make sure to translate from an in-person to a virtual? Were there some things that you would highlight that you've done that you feel like has worked well?
Yeah, so there's a couple of things. I think our onboarding program is pretty excellent. So wherever you are in the country, we actually fly you out to headquarters in Santa Monica for 2.5 days. And that's a really great experience for everybody, just to get a sense of the headquarters, meet a couple different team members. So we wanted to make sure that that connection was still there. And our training and development team did an excellent job transitioning that virtually, so that a lot of the sessions we have we call them Newligans. We are hooligans when you're there. And so what we've done is continue those sessions virtually, so that they get all of the information about our culture, the different departments. All of the videos have been transferred virtually, so you do kind of get the same experience.
No, that's great. Oh, that's amazing. Great. Whitney, would you like to?
Oh yeah, I was just going to say Surveymonkey's business is doing pretty well right now as well. We know that, you know, customers' feedback, employee feedback is important more now than it ever has been. So a lot of our customers are really grateful that we've, you know, designed survey templates so that they can send to their employees and understand what their needs are, especially during these unprecedented times. We also, similar to Hulu, took our intern program virtual this summer. So that was a fun challenge, but because, you know, our interns, you know, aren't in the office and having the opportunities to meet people face to face, we've scheduled over 120 intern events in 10 weeks. So it's a lot of events, but a lot of opportunities for our interns to connect with the larger organization and just with the intern class themselves. So we've received positive reviews from our interns, and we're really excited to finish the summer out virtually.
Well, that's great. I know you have 3 Tufts students too with you right now, which is amazing.
We do, 3 in our software engineering team.
That's awesome. Fantastic. And Catherine, yeah.
Yeah, so at AAA, we made a commitment early on that we were going to not lay off any team members, we call them, but they're employees, or furlough them, reduced hours, none of that. And we were a little skeptical, especially when they had a recruiting meeting right off the bat saying the recruiters aren't going to be recruiting. So we had, you know, a large recruiting staff that we put to work on special projects, taking employees and assigning them to different areas that they could help out other departments that were actually busier. We had a very large contact center in Clearfield, Utah, that we literally had no notice and told all the call center employees to grab their desktop and their office phone, take it home, and we'll figure it out. So there was a lot going on. To this date, we've not furloughed or let go or reduced hours for any employees. So I feel very proud of that. We put a lot of those call center employees to work doing welfare checks on our members that were over 60 years old, and just calling to say, hey, are you doing okay? Can we help with anything? We got a lot of really good feedback on that as well. So I feel very proud to work for a company, as many of the others that we have here today have made that commitment, because I know a lot of people that weren't so fortunate. So.
Well, that's great. Well, it sounds like a good theme amongst all of you, actually, that you've had some really solid leadership that's kind of navigated these times and really committed to their people, which I think is a great theme about culture in an organization. As students are thinking about where do I want to be and where do I want to work, those are some really good factors to kind of keep in mind, right, as they're looking at the organizations and job opportunities with all of you. I wanted to pivot to kind of other trends, because that obviously is one trend. Have you seen other trends across your industries, you know, during this time? Anything that you would highlight that you're seeing in terms of your business area, and especially on the West Coast, right, as hiring continues? And I know one theme obviously is that people don't necessarily feel like they have to live in California to work for companies that are in, you know, California now. So there's a lot more flexibility with living anywhere and working on the West Coast, which opens up a lot of opportunities for students. So I'd love to hear if there's any kind of industry trends in the tech sector, in, you know, your roles in your industries, if there's anything you've noticed over the past several months in terms of hiring as well. So who'd like to start with that one?
You want to go, Catherine?
Nick, yeah, feel free. Yeah.
Sure. Yeah, sure. So yeah, I think, it's funny. I mean, I've been working remotely for the last 15 years, in different like field sales type roles. So this, remote kind of becoming more mainstream has been kind of funny for me to look at from a 30,000 foot view. But I think you're right. I think it's more about people hiring for the right skill set and the right character and ethics instead of just being location based, which just opens up a whole world of possibilities. So I think it obviously puts more emphasis on building your own personal brand and not limiting yourself to specific locations. I think it's on the employer and the employee side or potential employee side. So I think that's certainly huge. On the sales side, I would say, I mean, we've even expanded how we look at filling certain roles even outside of the Northeast. For example, like we'll have a role that's with schools that are based in Boston, where you'd be selling to those schools, but we may fill that with somebody who lives in Philadelphia because they're a better fit and we have urgency to fill the role. That would never have happened years ago in any of the previous companies that I worked with. So it is certainly changing the game, and I think that I think it provides more flexibility to employers, and it also it allows you to be more creative when you're looking for jobs too.
Mm-hmm. So you're hiring people from all different places, and it's about finding the right person with the right skill set to fill that position. Not necessarily location is no longer a barrier to that.
Yeah. Even more so on the West Coast too, because it's much more spread out as far as the schools that we're serving and accounts that we're serving, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
We at Hulu, so we haven't really made determinations quite yet about how flexible we can be going forward after this. So the one trend I wanted to just call out that I've noticed is there's a lot of energy around diversity and inclusion efforts in our industry, at our company. And so that's been really great to see a lot of initiatives coming to fruition. Not that we weren't focused on this before, but I just think with everything going on, there's been a lot of energy around that, and our team has a pretty heavy hand in it. So it's been really exciting for us. I think Catherine mentioned, special projects. While there's not as many roles to recruit on, and we've been certainly doing that as well.
Mm-hmm. And are there specific things like inclusion efforts in terms of creating employee resource groups, or what are some of the main things that you feel like you've seen in the D&I space within Hulu?
Yeah, so right now we, as a recruiting team, I can talk specifically about our initiatives. We're partnering with business leaders from each department to create an OKR, objective and key result, for each independent department, which is really great. So there will be actual, not metrics necessarily, but goals tied to their specific initiatives and team objectives. So that's been really great. We do have employee resource groups. A couple just highlights. We have Hulu Black, Hulu Pride, Hula for our international women's group, you name it. And then New York has a particular ERG just for a diversity and inclusion panel. We've been doing trainings. Also, Disney has operational control over Hulu. So they've been doing a lot of sessions, just having a lot of different leaders within the company talk to us in a, open and honest dialogue, which has been great.
Oh, that's great. No, I'm sure that's a theme that's happening in a lot of organizations as well, but great to hear what Hulu is doing there. Anyone else like to add kind of trends that they're seeing, especially across the West Coast, or things that they've noticed in their organizations that have been shifting in terms of trends?
At Surveymonkey, there's just been a lot more flexibility in general. We know that a lot of our employees are parents and caregivers, and with all the schools, going to, moving forward with a virtual format, we know that now not only are working parents responsible for the work that they do and for managing great teams, but also for taking care of their home life. Even during the hours from 9 to 5, when typically they wouldn't necessarily be responsible for that. So our HR business partner team, our leadership team, are just being extra flexible right now to ensure that our employees have the space that they need in order to take care of their priorities at home.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, work-life balance is key right now. And it used to be, how many days from home I could be working, and now it's everyone is home all the time and having little children to balance school and all of those kinds of things. So flexibility is definitely key right now. Fantastic. So in terms of next question, our students obviously are graduates of 2020. We have recent alums that are usually on our student attendees. So I'd love to hear kind of what roles, you do have for early talent, including, internships would be great to hear about as well for students that are current. So I don't know if you could speak to that in terms of what kinds of positions you're seeking for our students.
I can go first. So we have a fairly large intern program at AAA, and we have a pretty high permanent hire rate at AAA as well. It's over 90% of our interns. Everyone loves them. So we see them in their groups, and they have lots of meetings in the boardroom, and executives have quite a presence around them as well. With AAA, we have our innovation lab, which is huge and very attractive because of everything they're working on there. A lot of it's secret stuff, and it's everything from ideation to product launch there. We also purchase other companies. We own the largest autonomous vehicle test site in the US and contracts with all the major car manufacturers, so we have positions there. We have a lot in finance. In fact, we just took a large operation we had offshore in-house, and we've just recently added 50 new positions, varying from analysts all the way up to director VP roles as well. So innovation is huge with our club, if that is of interest to anyone. And then also in the HR area, we're growing quite a bit there. Finance, I think I already mentioned that. Innovation, IT as well, internal audit and security. So a couple other areas, just with the growing company. I think you have that.
That's great.
As many others. So.
Oh, fantastic. That's great. Who would like to kind of go next and share their roles?
So at Salesforce, we have a program called Future Force, where we focus on, hiring summer interns, new graduates, and filling certain roles. I'd say I'll actually share this link once I finish talking here, but it's salesforce.com/company careers. It's a great place to kind of, be able to see, what sorts of roles you're looking for, whether it be product or sales and marketing or research or customer success, that sort of stuff. And you can kind of try out these different roles and really see what's a better fit. I mean, a lot of times you'll study in a specific area, and you may find out that you want to go a different route, right? So we certainly welcome that. We explore that, and we support that. So I'll send that to everybody here. So that's for the internships. But then as far as entry-level jobs, we still have a bunch of those available. I'd say the three big areas where we're still hiring are for sales, product, and engineering type jobs. So I think one of my colleagues here was saying it's not as robust as it's been, because I think there's so much uncertainty about what the future is going to look like, but still hiring and still growing.
Fantastic. That's great to hear.
I can go briefly just because I remembered our website finally. So if you are interested, it's careers.hulu.com. You can read about our intern program, our culture, and I think that's a really great opportunity for everybody to just get a sense of the different departments. I would say transparently, there aren't a whole grip of entry-level roles at Hulu. We do have a really robust intern program. You have to be a current college student or going into your senior year. And so I think in terms of entry level, the ones I focus on in ad sales in that world, we have ad sales coordinators, we have media coordinators, anything in that realm. And I think you're probably gonna ask this later, but if you have any questions, about what roles to target. If you are exiting college, I'm happy to chat through those.
Fantastic. Great.
Similar to Hulu, Surveymonkey, we don't typically hire that many new college grads. However, ever since we started expanding our sales team, we have started hiring a lot of entry-level sales development representatives. So there's usually plenty of opportunities to join the troop. Oh, by the way, at Surveymonkey, we refer to ourselves as the troop. So join the troop on the sales team. And similar to what Catherine was saying, we do have a robust intern program, and the goal of that program is to convert high-performing interns into full-time future employees and leaders of Surveymonkey. And our conversion rate is around 75%, so not 90, but it's also really great. So we are going to start recruiting for our intern class in just a few weeks. We hire software engineering interns, sales interns, marketing interns, product, legal, finance, HR, so all across the board. And I believe Susan is going to share our contact information afterwards. So you can definitely learn more on the Surveymonkey careers page, or you are more than welcome to email me directly at Whitney G at surveymonkey.com.
That's great. Fantastic. In terms of skills, right, our students come with a lot of great skills, and trying to figure out what are employers looking for, what are those basic concrete things that you're seeking, what do you look for in a resume. So what are maybe one or two of the skills that you're looking for when you're thinking about these roles that you have for either graduates or early talent pipelines, such as sales development areas, for example. So maybe you could highlight a couple of the skills that you seek when you're looking at students that are recent graduates.
I'd say the biggest skills that I look for are typically like the intangible type skills. So one is things are constantly changing, and there's a lot of pace and rigor that we work with at Salesforce. So it's fast paced. You're constantly moving. So I'm always looking for people who have growth mindsets, who when they hit barriers, they're thinking about how to get over that barrier rather than the negative, because you're just going to face that constantly, right? And you hear that all the time, but you don't see it executed a lot. So we try and incorporate and test for that in the interview process. It's hard to do, but it's really important. I think character-driven people, people who understand and like competition. These are for sales and marketing type jobs, right? So I think those are real key fundamental things. People who are curious, and then on top of that, people are able to actually perform the functions of a good solid salesperson. But I think those fundamentals are really key. It's not necessarily just about performance and how somebody interviews. It's really about how do you make sure that you're the type of person who can grow and deal with change.
Mm-hmm. So problem solvers, resilience, those kinds of folks, in terms of how do I navigate through these hard clients, right, in the sales landscape potentially.
Exactly right. And I mean, it's across all different roles now, right? I mean, there's so much uncertainty around everyone's roles, whether you're in event, let's say you got into events, right? And you are planning these big in-person events, and now you can't do that. What do you do? Mm-hmm. So everybody's role has changed, and you've got to adapt and be creative.
No, that's great. Anything folks would want to add in terms of skill sets? Anything particular?
Yeah, the positive problem solving is definitely a big one for us. The example we always use is that, if someone's coming with a problem and not a solution, that's typically not somebody we'd want to work with. And so Hulu has a lot of values actually on our website. And for that in particular, we really align, I'm so sorry, my dog is barking. We align our questions pretty heavily to those values. So if you are interested in a job at Hulu, I highly encourage you read our values, you read about the company, because I agree with Nick that the intangible skills are really important, but we also look for folks who are really passionate about the industry, about the product, and have some sort of direction as to what industry they're looking to go into.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I would add to what Alex and Nick said is we do a lot of our entry level, our video applications. And so, so those skills would be good to have as well. And we're looking for that, that candidate that is passionate about what they're applying for, what they want to do. And again, in those problem solving skills as well. So, so that would be something that is important to us for sure.
That's great. What about data analysis? That comes up a lot, you know, working with data, Excel, and things like that. How does that fit in terms of your skill areas and interests, depending on the roles, obviously, you're trying to fill? Does that come into play as well?
Definitely for me and for us as a company. I mean, you know, a lot of the job is really about territory planning, and a lot of that is about, hey, how am I going to get to my number? How do I break down a year and figure out what I need to do day to day? And that all comes down to data. So that's a key component.
And how to transform that data into reports and usable information. That was one thing that we re-looked at AAA about 3 years ago, is we have all this data, but nobody was doing anything with it. And so we hired a lot of new analysts to actually use that information so that we can improve our products, our customer service throughout the whole organization. So.
Yeah, being able to tell that story with the data that they have, right? In terms of what's the picture saying to you and to the business, that makes sense.
I was just going to add too, at Hulu, like there are certain departments where I think you wouldn't necessarily assume you would need the data and analytics piece, but there are arguably roles in marketing and content, in sales, that if you do have the analytical backing, it just makes you that much more of a viable candidate. So I encourage anybody. I'm way past my prime. I don't understand data, but I do definitely encourage it for any role across the board.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's great feedback. And what are the best ways for students to engage with employers right now, right? There's not in person, except for some, you know, onboarding potentially that's going on. It'd be great for our students to know what's the best way for them to present themselves and to make the connections with folks like yourselves, and to really stand out in a market where there's a lot more candidates now. So it would be great to kind of get your sense of how do they engage with you? What are some of the tips and best practices you would impart to our students in that regard?
Mine might be a little subjective, but I think, you know, obviously LinkedIn is used so frequently to connect with folks on a team you might be interested, or a recruiter at that company. And so for me, it's more like what not to do. So, you know, we've definitely seen a lot of people who are really eager and want their application to be seen, so they apply to like 27 jobs. I really encourage you to be specific about what positions you're interested in, what department. If you are going to reach out to a recruiter, be super intentional about why. I also think the onus should be on, you know, the prospective candidate, not necessarily asking a recruiter like, hey, what is your availability to hop on a call with me? Like, ask if they have time, ask if they're the right person to talk to, explain why you're interested in talking to them, just to give them more context and want to take the call.
Do your research, right? Do your research basically, and make sure you know what you're looking at and looking for in terms of roles. No, that makes sense.
At Surveymonkey, we will be attending a few virtual events, but mostly we'll be doing a lot of sourcing. So keep your LinkedIn profiles up to date, keep your Handshake and Way Up profiles up to date. We want to, like at Surveymonkey, our intern program is specifically for rising seniors. So something as simple as a graduation date is really helpful to us. I guess that would be my main recommendation, is just to keep all of your profiles, your employment profiles up to date so that we can reach out.
And do you like, and do you like having them attach their resume to their LinkedIn profile specifically? Is that helpful as well?
Sometimes you can't see them very well on LinkedIn for some reason. I think that's a feature that needs to get fixed. But usually we'll reach out and say, hey, if you're interested, like reply back with an attached resume.
Mhm. And what about, maybe you could talk a little bit about Way Up, because I don't think all of our students know what that tool is. So it'd be good just to kind of share a little bit more about how you're using that. That would be a fantastic insight for our students.
Yeah, so Surveymonkey has decided to invest in a platform called Way Up. It's basically a competitor to Handshake, and it focuses primarily on diversity initiatives. So we will be using Way Up. We also have the free Handshake platform as well, but we'll be utilizing Way Up. I definitely recommend. They're small. They're a small team, but they're growing really fast. I believe they have like 10,000 new members on a weekly basis. So I definitely recommend checking out Way Up. It's very similar to Handshake, just in my opinion. It looks very, very similar to LinkedIn. So you have that feel as to like you can customize your profile, I guess, in a way that makes the recruiter understand a little bit more about you. But nothing against Handshake. It's a great platform as well, and we'll be using both.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you.
I was just going to add, your LinkedIn photo is very important as well. Sometimes you see them that look more like a Facebook possible page. And then also the Gmail. A lot of us have our photos attached to our Gmail. And so when when recruiters are replying and get that photo back and it's not as professional as we'd like, it is a little bit of a red flag, but I just wanted to throw that out there.
So professional first impression through a photo, and also probably the email address that you're using too, right? Making sure that it is your name and not something kind of out of the box, but making sure that's professional as well in terms of the email address. Yeah, those are great tips. Any other things anyone wants to add in terms about connecting and engaging right now that's worked well? Yeah, I think the theme is make sure that your first impressions are good, you do your research, reach out with a real intention and a clear passion for a position, not just kind of throwing something in the mix for 27 roles, right? Really being thoughtful about that. So that's great advice.
Add that a lot of employers, and it's probably going to be overwhelming, a lot of employers are hosting virtual info sessions, and everything's going to be virtual this fall, likely. So you will be receiving you'll be inundated with a lot of invites. So my recommendation to you all is just pick and choose the events that you want to go to. I think it's important to go to as many as possible, just so that you can learn about what you like and what you don't like. But if you're invited to 5 events at the same time on one night, just really do your research and decide where can I see myself, or which company would I like to learn more about, because I guess that's a fear of mine from a recruiting standpoint, is that students are just going to be inundated with so many different virtual recruiting events that some of them might get lost in the mix. So just choose wisely, I guess, and then try to attend as many as possible.
Mm-hmm. No,
And a lot of those are really fun. They're almost like a video game. I don't know how many of you guys have been involved with, but I've been in a few, and I didn't want to give up my shift because it was so much fun. If you haven't done them, I would definitely say at least try a couple, because they are very useful and fun.
Yeah, and we'll be using Tufts, just for the students' knowledge. We'll be using Handshake. We'll be highlighting all the virtual events and activities coming fall, and we are offering a number. We have about 5 virtual career fairs where we're keeping the number small to 50 employers this coming semester. So you'll definitely be able to pick and choose the variety of virtual career events, and we'll be hosting several panels as well in advance of each career fair, highlighting kind of the industry, so that you'll get kind of an industry overview before each of those events. So more information will be kind of getting into students' emails and on Handshake shortly. So you'll be learning more about that, and we'll have training sessions for students too, to know how to navigate those upcoming virtual events to get the most out of them. So I appreciate your tip, Whitney, about really doing the research, finding the organization culture and the roles that really fit your bigger picture vision for your future careers, because there's going to be a lot of different things going on simultaneously, I would imagine. Well, I'd love to switch it over to some of the student questions that we got. I know there's been a couple so far, so I'll start with some of the ones that were submitted in advance, but I've gotten a few so far in our chat box, so I'll continue to monitor those and pose those to the panel. But one of the first student questions that came in was, how do I prepare for the upcoming recruiting season? What's the best way to present myself, as a student during this recruiting season? So any kind of tips on, how do they prepare as they're thinking about all the jobs and things that will be posted, internships, rotational programs? What are a couple things you'd highlight?
I think for me, and I mentioned this before, it's just read as much as you possibly can about the companies that you're interested in. It's very, very impressive to recruiters when you understand like their business model and the different departments and what ad sales actually sells. So that's, I think, my biggest thing is to do your research.
Mm-hmm.
One other thing you just reminded me, Alex, from a hiring manager perspective, I love when people reach out to get my opinion on what they should do to position themselves for the job, that sort of thing. So once you figure out, once you figure out your personal brand, the type of company you want to work for, start scouring LinkedIn and find people who work there and just reach out. And you're going to get a lot of no's, but at the same time, you're going to get one or two people who really appreciate that, and you can have some really, really strong conversations that help you with recruiters and help you with, a lot of people at the front end.
Most of our intern class at Surveymonkey are software engineering interns. So if there are any CS or computer engineering students on this call, please reach out to me. It's totally fine. But in order to prepare for one of our technical interviews, which if you're going through a first technical interview, it's really scary. It's scary, and we want it to make it easy for you. So we encourage all of our interns to use whatever, our stack is Python, but we encourage our candidates to use whatever language that they feel most comfortable in. We don't require a prior internship. If you didn't have an internship this summer, and that's totally fine, work on a personal project. And we know that you have class projects and those are great too, but I guess I'm more interested in learning about, a challenge that you found in your personal life or your professional life and how you were able to solve that through using technology and, by working on a personal project and solving challenges that you're facing on a day-to-day basis. Brush up on your data structures and algorithms, read the book, Cracking the Coding Interview. Surveymonkey's technical recruiting questions are related to the questions that you'll see there. They're not the same, obviously, but they're very similar. So for any CS majors, again, please feel free to reach out. But don't worry if you didn't land an internship this summer. That's not what we're necessarily looking for. We're just looking for interns who will come in and echoing what Alex said, we want you to want to be here. So we want you to do your research, learn about Surveymonkey's values and our culture and our products. And I think you'll be on the right path as long as you do all of that.
Great. Yeah.
I would also add, cast a wide net. Make sure you're applying for what you want to do, but cast a wide net. My daughter graduated from college with a bachelor's for an RN. She applied to 2 hospitals and she had her heart set on them. She didn't get either one. She was devastated, and we finally talked to her, send out those, resumes, start contacting people, make the contacts. Within 2 weeks, she had 4 offers and had been flown to like 3 places and now has her dream job. So it was pretty telling, but she was devastated at first. So I would just say cast a wide net.
That happened to me as well. I actually applied to Hulu originally, didn't get the job, and kept in touch with multiple people I had interviewed with, and then ended up getting a job. So I could not agree more.
Yeah, keep those connections constant and ongoing, and check in periodically, on what might be there, which wasn't there before, right? Kind of keeping that lead a little bit more warm as you're going through your job search. What about kind of portfolios and, in addition to LinkedIn, what do any of you kind of look at project samples or portfolios of projects that students might have done? It'd be great to kind of know if you've, look at those kinds of additional websites when you're looking through people's resumes. Are those things that you would prioritize as being important for the roles that you hire for? Anyone have comment on that?
For AAA, yeah. So I would suggest just touching on them within the body of the resume. Sometimes if there's too many attachments, they just don't get read as much. But there are certain positions that are very, subject matter expert that is very important to have on those projects, probably more in the IT realm. But definitely touch on those in your resume, those big accomplishments.
Okay.
It happens less in the sales area because it's more numbers driven, but I mean any opportunity to differentiate yourself, I think is only a benefit. So I would encourage you, if you have something that's going to help differentiate you and you can help somebody else visualize that, it's going to be huge.
And what about, I guess, beyond internships, kind of traditional internships and positions? Do any of you have kind of rotational programs or fellowships or anything else that you would highlight specifically to kind of current students that they could take advantage of with your organizations?
Oh, we have had that in the past. This year we do not have one, but there's a good chance we will bring it back. And that's exactly what it was, is a rotational program every 6 to 18 months. We'd hire the college graduates. They move from different areas completely. They'd go from marketing to A3 Ventures, our innovation lab, to finance. And if they landed somewhere they loved and their, the hiring manager, VP, loved them, then they were open to permanently stay there. And most of them didn't make it past their second rotation just because they loved the position they were doing. But it was a terrific program. And I will tell you the compensation was very good for those. So.
Fantastic. Any other special programs folks want to highlight? I know, Nick, Salesforce has badges, right? You can kind of add those. Do you find that, undergraduates have access to take advantage of all those, the trailheads and things like that at Salesforce?
Yeah, I'll actually post, I'll post on the chat, but it's called Salesforce Trailhead. And you can skill yourself up on different, Salesforce products. You can get yourself ready to be a Salesforce architect or a Salesforce admin, and position yourself for jobs at other companies too, based on the platform. So it's not just working at Salesforce, but it's also, we call it the Salesforce economy, where there's, more than $1 billion worth of potential opportunities, not just at Salesforce, but in other companies who have their infrastructure on the Salesforce platform. Trailhead.com, free platform. You can skill yourself up and get badges and eventually get certifications. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah, no, it's a great service and opportunity for students who want to graduate and have that skill set. So I think that's amazing. And what about, I guess, in terms of most entry-level roles, it sounds like from your kind of introductions are all working remotely right now. And is there kind of a plan, I guess, for you to move to in-person at any given time? So it'd be good to kind of just hear most positions are starting remotely now. And is there a plan to kind of move them in-house at some point over the coming months?
I can start. So at Surveymonkey, our leadership team has given us all the option to work remotely, at least until the new year. And because the future is so uncertain right now, we're reevaluating that, daily, weekly. Our leadership team was really amazing and provided all of our employees with a $500 work from home stipend to ensure that our space and our environment was set up. Our offices are actually still open right now, but we are there's a lot of rules to work from home, but we didn't want to shut it down because we know that not everyone has an opportunity to work in a safe environment, or in an environment where they, can bring their best self to work. So it's still open, but we're highly encouraging employees to work remotely. And since March, we've successfully onboarded over 150 employees. So we're growing a lot. Onboarding is virtual, and it will be virtual for the near future. And we at Surveymonkey, this is like a legal and payroll and HR thing, but we are requiring our new hires to work remotely from a state that Surveymonkey is currently registered in. And I believe we're registered in about 26 states or something like that. So I guess the only clause is that it's totally fine to work remotely, but in the event that we, when we go back into the office, we do want to see everyone in person and have people working from their respective office.
Yeah, at Salesforce, we have the flexibility to work from home until the end of the year as well. At the same time, we have hundreds of offices that we're slowly reopening. There's probably 10 to 15 of 150 offices that are open, and they have like a running transparent list of what's kind of opening up. And most of that's in China right now and kind of coming west as things get a little bit better. So the other thing that they're doing is setting up the infrastructure for each of these offices so that they're redesigned for social distancing and just making sure that everything is really safe. And they're also doing some shift management stuff, which is pretty interesting. So let's say you're in the San Francisco headquarters, you may have 4 shifts, shift 1, 2, 3, 4, and if somebody tests positive for COVID in shift 2, they can shut down that shift and keep the other 3 shifts going because, either you're working on different days or different levels, that sort of thing. So they're taking all that in consideration, and no clue what that is going to mean as far as when we go back, but at least we know they're taking the proper precautions.
Oh, that's great.
And we've done something similar to that. Our headquarters in Walnut Creek is in Contra Costa County, and that's one of the hardest hit. So we've been shelter in place twice now. We did bring back 25% of the headquarters team members, but then we sent them all home until end of September. Right now is the next date. We do have some executives working at headquarters right now. But that in-person collaboration is very much missed, and one of the great things about AAA, and I think in doing business when you've got all these excited collaborative people passionate about what they do, and I think everyone's really missing that, and so we definitely plan to bring people back to headquarters. Will it ever be the same? Probably not in the near future. But again, we've done 2 teams. We have the blue team, red team. We have them coming back, so we don't have more than 25% capacity at the headquarters once they open it back up again. And then also, limiting how many people in the elevator. We have 10 floors at our Walnut Creek headquarters there, and they were pretty close together before. So it's been a challenge, but we look forward to getting back to that in-person collaboration. So
Yeah, much easier when you're in person in an office, for sure, to interact with your colleagues. I get that. Fantastic. Just one other question, and then I'll have final thoughts from each of you on the panel since our time is running out so quickly. What's your thought on cover letters, right? Cover letters for submitting to specific roles. LinkedIn, obviously, you can put quite a bit of information on there too, but it'd be great to get a take from each of you on, the importance of the cover letter along with a resume. What's your stance on that from each of your organizations?
I think it's definitely a personal opinion. I don't need them. I think I can glean enough information from your resume. To your point, Susan, obviously LinkedIn, you can add notes, and obviously if you have a small summary section, I think that's totally fine. and I'm sure every recruiter on this call can attest to this, there's a lot of candidates per role, there's a lot of roles, and so I don't think recruiters necessarily have the time to read out, you know, a 4-paragraph cover letter, but it's really to each their own. So if you feel strongly about having one, I think that's fine.
Great. Anyone else?
Echoing. Oh, go ahead, Catherine. It's fine. Well, I'll just echo what Alex said. I do believe it is a personal opinion and preference on whether or not you want to have a cover letter. At Surveymonkey, we do require cover letters for our legal internships and also for our MBA internship opportunities. But the majority of our interns are undergrads. So as Alex mentioned, we're reviewing a lot of profiles and we don't always have the time to go through cover letters, but if an employer requires it, you know, definitely check out the application. If it says cover letter required, then please do so, and please make them, you know, cater them towards the company that you're applying for. I can tell when you just change my name and change the company name. Again, I guess it just goes back to we want you to want to be here. So if you do have a cover letter, please personalize it.
That's great. Be thoughtful, right? And really intentional about it. If you're going to write one, really be thoughtful about that. No, that's great. Anything else?
Exactly what I was going to say. So I was going to say the same thing Whitney just went over, is make sure that it's a passionate cover letter, because we all get those, you know, the template cover letters that, you know, just are, you know, they don't mean anything. So if you're very passionate, include it. I'm not a huge fan of them, but I will tell you, just last week I had a hiring manager. That cover letter made all the difference, and that on paper, that was not the best candidate, but their cover letter was so great, and they got the job. So yeah.
It tells their story, right? It tells their story and what they're passionate about and how they really fit the role. So that's a great, you know, a great story to share. So in terms of just final thoughts, since we're a little bit over time, I would just love to hear, we all were students once, right? We were all graduates looking for that first job after college, and we all got advice from a lot of places. What's one kind of piece of advice that you'd really love to share with our Tufts students and alumni that are on this workshop that you really feel helped you as you were on your path as a new graduate looking for a job? So what's that one piece of advice that you'd love to leave with our students in this workshop?
I think for me, just the best advice I got was it will happen. You will be rejected many, many times. And I think, in fact, when I was going through this process, I had a sheet of 100 squares, and I would X out every time I got rejected. And the good news is I did not get to 100. So I think if you just are patient and you keep pushing and having, you know, the right connections, putting together a really thoughtful resume, it will happen for you. And I just hope that no one on this call gets discouraged, because I just fundamentally believe you'll find the right opportunity that you were meant to, and it will make a lot more sense when you look back, you know, 5-10 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I would say you know, we're all not entitled to jobs, right? So I think it's up to us to do the work, not just you know, my brother has a completely different personality than me. I've always had these conversations with him. He's like, I applied for like 10 different jobs, 10 different places. I'm like, so did you talk to people? He's like, no, I just put in my resume online. It's like, no, you've got to do more than that. You got to go next level. There's multiple different avenues you've got to work. Yeah, you might get some responses there, but develop some relationships, do the LinkedIn stuff, make sure that your personal brand is really tight. Be proactive about it, and and intentional. So and do the work. It's gonna take some time, but the more work you put into it, the more opportunity you have to really start to see things through.
Any other wisdom that you'd like to add, Whitney or Catherine?
Echoing what Nick said, I think it all comes down to just being intentional. When you apply to 10 different jobs, you shouldn't be applying with one resume. you should have 10 different resumes. And I know that's a lot of extra work, but I promise it'll be worth it, because when you're looking at a job description, you know, look at the keywords, look at like what it is that the company is looking for, and, you know, don't lie on your resume, but transform your resume and, you know, have it cater to what the company is looking for so that you can be more of a match. And my second bit of advice is just to continue going to things like this. Interact with employers, with recruiters, with hiring managers, especially if you know where you want to work. If you are really passionate, like say, I really want to work at Hulu, like go on LinkedIn, apply to roles that fit your interest and skill set. You know, usually you can do a quick search and find out who their university recruiter is, shoot them a note and say, hey, I just applied to this role, versus, hey, are there any roles that would be a fit for my background? So I think just to be proactive, make sure that your resume is catered towards the role in the company that you're applying for, and to continue to build connections through great events like this.
Great, thank you so much.
Yeah, and I would just add, let everyone know you're looking for a job and what kind of a position you're looking for, and again, the companies too. You know, your parents' friends are all really important right now for that kind of networking as well. So so I would recommend that too.
No, it's great. I think this is a great time to network, get out there, let everyone know that you're looking, what you're looking for. It's really critical, and you can do a lot virtually, and Zoom lets us network more intentionally and personally as well. So that's great. And I think, you know, one piece of advice that I would add is just constantly stay at it, do a couple things, you know, a day, and those things will add up to, you know, multiples of things over the course of a month, and it really does add to your outcomes by staying at it and staying motivated. So I think that's really important. I want to thank everyone again on our panel for spending time with us this evening on the East Coast and West Coast. So thank you all to Nick and Whitney and Catherine and Alex. It's just such a pleasure to get to hear more about your experience and your insights. So I really appreciate you being on this summer programming event. I just want to let our students know that we will be putting together the contact details for all of our panelists and sharing that with all of you. You'll be getting a survey as well, so we really appreciate your feedback. So thank you for filling that out. It only takes a couple minutes. And this is part of our Career Center summer programming series, and so we will continue to have some additional sessions coming up with employers and alumni alike. So check that out on the Career Center website. And we will be recording the session. So if you know someone who couldn't attend this evening, we'll be putting that up on our YouTube channel with closed captioning in the coming days. So look for that as well. And again, thank you all for coming tonight. And I hope you have a great rest of your week. And thanks again to our panelists. So have a great night, and thank you, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Thank
Yeah.
you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you.
All right, take care. Bye-bye.